Welcome to the Sports Science Dudes. I'm your host, Dr. Jose Antonio, with my co-host, Dr. Tony Ricci. If you're a first-time listener, hit the subscribe button, like the show. You can find us on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Now, our special guest today, this will be a fun one, by the way, is Dr. Lia Jiannine, and she is actually a Florida native. I am not a Florida native. Neither is Tony. We moved here, and we both agree that Florida is the best country in the world.
Oh, Lord. At least the best weather. I could say that.
Well, Lia got her bachelor's and master's degree from the University of Florida's College of Health and Human Performance. By the way, their football team is quite mediocre this year. She holds a PhD in curriculum and instruction, specializing in sports science with a cognate in public health. Her PhD, which we will talk about, was centered around the merging of health science and exercise physiology, and she gained a deeper understanding of sexual health when writing her dissertation, Sex Positive Curricula, an investigation of the relationship between physical fitness, self-concept, and sexual functioning. And it was published in the journal, I think, Education, Health, and Promotion. So we're going to talk about that. In addition, this is super cool. She has a show titled Sex Talk with Dr. Lia. Each episode of Sex Talk is 30 minutes, featuring short videos that dispel sex myths, examine the science of sex, and highlight different aspects of sexual health. Lia is also one of our colleagues at Nova Southeastern University.
That's
so,
right. Shock.
Welcome to the show, Lia.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, this will be fun. And you're already used to being on a show since you have your own sex show. I'm not even sure where to start. However, I think the most fun conversation we could have is on our recent publication in the Journal of Exercise Physiology. And you're very good at telling this story, but the title of the paper, you'll get a kick out of this, Tony, is The Effects of Cursing on Exercise Performance. So I'm going to let you tell the story because the results are actually kind of interesting.
It really was fascinating. So I was watching a Netflix documentary on the history of cursing. And so they're going through all of these myths, and we really don't know where a lot of the words came from. But then they found that cursing actually aided in pain tolerance. So naturally, I was like, we're in a lot of pain. A lot of times, if you're trying to do time to exertion tests, you're feeling it. So naturally, I wanted to see how cursing was going to help with exercise performance. And actually, on a side note that most people don't know, I'm still bitter about this. In 8th grade, I got suspended from school, and I was a straight A student because I was singing a song that had a curse word in it. And my mom's pretty religious and always tells me not to curse. So I was elated to do this study. It was lots.
Was it a song by Two Live Crew?
No, it was actually a song by Green Day.
Oh, really? They have a curse word?
Yeah, there was this curse word in the song, and I was singing it in the locker room, and some 3rd grader ratted me out. And I got zeros for the day, and it killed my straight A's. So, I was just really happy to do this cursing study.
Okay, so I remember you spoke to me about it way back when, and I said to you, there is no way I am involved in data collection. No way. I do not want to be in the room. And you would, and I think this happened to you as well. Students don't want faculty around when they are literally cursing. So explain how that came about, because you weren't in the room as well. So how did you set it up?
Yeah, and actually, that is a limitation in the study that I didn't think about until I was recruiting students. And one of them asked me if I was going to be there, and I'm there for data collection. And I said, yeah. And he said he quite simply didn't feel comfortable cursing in front of me. And it wasn't something I thought of. I don't curse in class. I sound like a sailor in my normal life, but I don't curse professionally. So my students don't see that. So I had to have research assistants and go over all the protocol. And so obviously I had a cursing room and a non-cursing room. And so it was controlled in that context. So I asked people, if you were to stub your toe, what is the first word that would come to mind? And whatever word that was, then I created a similar word and syllable and sound and all of that they would use as a control. And it was a crossover study. So people came in, half the time, half the group started cursing with either, can I curse here on the show?
Yeah, it's a podcast.
All right. I just didn't know. So we had
wait, stop there. I want to know what Tony would say when he stubs his toe.
Oh, I want to know.
You really want to hear?
Yes.
Well, it wouldn't be one word. I mean, everything to me is pretty much go F yourself, right? So if I would blame it on the curb or whatever I bump my toe into, and it can go fuck itself. Yeah.
Oh,
I can't curse on even on our show. It's very hard for me, but nevertheless.
No, I'm the same way. I will say, like, if I walk into a pole, I'm like, fuck that pole. Like,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
the pole's fault,
I
right?
curse out whatever did it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. I'm with you. Well, so if people said motherfucker, then they had to say mother fudger in the when they were in the control
In
group,
control. Okay.
right? So and shit and shoot and damn and darn, right? So and darn it or damn it, whatever. And so it was really interesting. And they had to say the word every 5 seconds in accordance with a metronome.
Well, you had one subject whose control word was neighbor.
Yes.
And it took me a while to be like, neighbor. Oh, neighbor. Oh, okay.
Yes. Oh,
okay.
yes. And I want to add that it was one of my Black students because that is
right.
a point.
Right.
So, but so, yeah. So
Tony's like, wait a minute.
That's not a curse word, though.
Well, no, that's the control word.
Oh, yeah. Neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah. So
now, let me ask you this, though. Like, if I stub my toe, I say MFer or goddamn or whatever. If I consciously decided to say control word, like just as an experiment, I would have a hard time saying it because it doesn't naturally flow. And I don't know if there's I don't know how that works in terms of language in the brain and how you respond to pain. But I would imagine that's the only way you could do this study. I mean, you can't not have the control word.
well, I mean, I wasn't in there for the cursing group, but I was around for the non-cursing. And I mean, it was hilarious to watch people do a wall sit, and every 5 seconds, they just seemed so aggravated, like fudge. They just seemed so annoyed because it isn't normal. But I don't think it's normal to curse every 5 seconds in accordance with a metronome anyway. Like that's
right.
just not, you say.
I'm sorry, how long were they on the wall sit?
It was time to exhaustion.
Okay.
So every 5 seconds, and then push up. We did wall sit, push up, plank, and then hand grip.
Here, Tony, just to give you an idea, the non-cursing wall sit was 115 seconds. The cursing wall sit was 140 seconds. So that's 110, 115 versus 140. That's actually a pretty big difference.
It's huge. I'm going to train after this and curse out about everybody. This is.
It might look like you have Tourette's if you're just randomly cursing while you're lifting weights. But I would like to film that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll send you it.
No, to me this is interesting because it's non-traditional exercise in sports science research, and you had 4 measures. You had hand grip, you had wall sits, you had push-ups, and you had planks. So how did you come up with the exercise choices? Because it's most people are like, well, why would I hand grip and then wall sit in the same workout? I mean, who does that?
Well, the reality is 1 RM would just be too challenging and too long, and then you're just cursing as you're doing it. So 1 RM wasn't there. The isometric hand grip was really kind of a last minute thing that I threw in, to be honest. I was really looking at time to exhaustion tests because I figured that I would have it. I didn't expect the hand grip to be significant. I was surprised when I saw that. But hand grip correlates well with a lot of things. So that was a last minute throw in, and realistically, but, they were just really easy tests to execute, and people had 5-minute, breaks in between them. So they did wall sit first they hand grip first, 5 minutes, but that one, whatever, wall sit. And then I made everybody wait the 5 push-up plank.
Well, here's the data. Hand grip, and all of these are statistically significant. They're significantly different. So the cursing group was 9% stronger in hand grip. Mm-hmm. They were 22% lasted longer in the wall sit. They did 15% more push-ups, and they did 12%. They lasted 12% longer in the plank. So we're not talking a 1 to 2% difference. It's actually a pretty big difference. And I wonder what it would have been if the control group said nothing, meaning they just were there. But I don't know. That's purely speculative. I'm sure you thought of that as well.
Yeah, I did. I only really saw 2 other studies that did this, and they were looking at like wind gate performance. And I believe they one group had them say absolutely nothing, and then one group also had them cursing. So I can't remember the difference there, but I didn't know if there was something that you would feel by exhaling, like fudge, if you're saying
Right.
it. And so I wanted to keep it as similar as possible, which is why I had them use that substitute word. But interestingly enough, I actually read another study showing that the effect of pain reduction that you get from cursing is actually reduced in people that curse all the time.
Wait, say that again.
The amount of reduction, the
Mhm.
pain reduction that you get is reduced. So think of like a tolerance to cursing if you're somebody who curses all the time. And I didn't think to study that. So it would have been interesting to have people guess or estimate how many curse words they say on a daily basis and see if their changes
Right.
were related to that.
So,
But I didn't think of that until later.
yeah,
Right.
no, makes sense. It's because it's almost dose dependent there. I mean, it's losing its
Right.
efficacy the more you use it, right? So, but this is really cool, Leah. So from a psychophysiology standpoint, which this is not even XPhys, this is psychophys. How is a mood or a cognitive process changing peripheral performance, right? What is it? Do you think it's what leads up to the curse word that preempts the body? Are we getting a extra, I doubt it, but epinephrine kick? Or what do you think is going on here? Like, so, does the anger that gets the curse out have an impact on it? Is it the curse word itself? Or how is it affecting the nervous system is what I'm wondering. And it's
Right.
okay if we don't know.
I really don't know. I mean, I would imagine any type of relief, not to go back to the show in terms of sexual functioning, but like
Right.
people can withstand a lot more pain during sexual acts in the same types of ways,
That's true.
the same
Right.
relief. So I would presume there would be some type of link there, but we really don't know.
Yeah, really fascinating. That's what I want to try to figure out.
Yeah, blood tests during this would have been pretty interesting.
Yeah, because you could have looked at catecholamine response,
Yeah.
cortisol levels, maybe even like cytokine or interleukins may have, what was the inflammatory response? Really, really cool though. Fascinating.
Yeah, it's a great
You
study to
didn't-
start off with. There's so many ways to, run with it.
Right.
Right.
And you didn't, like ahead of time, you didn't know who were the people who cursed and who didn't. Like some people just curse all the time, they swear, and others don't typically do that. So, but you didn't get that data before.
Nope, I had no idea what their cursing was. The only thing I said is, make sure that you feel comfortable cursing. Because, I didn't need people who were just really uncomfortable with the topic and then we're just trying to curse to do a study. So I wanted people to feel comfortable with it because I'm assuming if you're feeling uncomfortable cursing, then you wouldn't get any benefit. So, somebody that didn't have any religious problems with cursing or any moral problems with cursing, I wanted to make sure that I eliminated them. But
What was the most popular curse word they chose, Leah?
fuck.
Fuck and fudge.
By far, it was fuck followed by shit. So that was by far the curse word when you're in pain that people are going to say.
Those are probably the two most commonly used words in the English language.
Hey, I mean, it makes you feel better, right? If you're telling a story and you're angry, it just makes you feel better.
Yeah, I guess. I think you're good. This is game changing. I think instead of hearing quarterbacks like Peyton Manning used to go up to the line and go, Omaha, Omaha, they may now be F you. And, we're gonna much better offense now.
That's right.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. That's what my team needs.
That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. So if you were to give the audience loves these little short tidbits, an elevator pitch, summarize that study in 60 seconds, what would you say?
I can summarize it in probably one sentence. If you want better performance, curse.
Okay.
That's it. Let it out. Feel free. There's nothing wrong with saying a couple of syllables. As long as you're not cursing at somebody, you're just kind of releasing it. Go for it.
Right.
So fucking shit is basically
Exactly.
those are the winners.
Exactly. And actually, I read another study, interestingly enough, that in physical therapy offices, people felt more comfortable with their physical therapist if both of them cursed. They felt like that camaraderie and they felt better and they were showing better developments later and they were showing improved rates of
Fascinating.
feeling. But, you know, obviously you'd have to be careful. My luck, I'm going to get somebody that's going to try to get me fired afterwards. So like,
She's got the mouth of a sailor. Get
Just
rid of
carry
her.
your paper around with you wherever you go, and you can prove that it's, you
Yeah.
know, you're just performing better, teaching better, and have more energy.
oh, I'm so looking forward to it because I am 42 years old. And when I come home, my mother will still be like, Leah, don't curse. I'm like, can't wait. Can't wait to bring this one up.
Actually, I want the audience to know that Leah's mouth would put sailors to shame, just so you know.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm up there.
Okay, let's go a little. Let's go back to your days when you were a doctoral student and your dissertation. It was the title of it when it was published is an investigation of the relationship between physical fitness, self-concept, and sexual functioning. So I'm sure when students listen to this, they're always wondering, how did you come up with the topic? Because as you know, when you're a grad student, you're kind of fumbling around. It's like, what do I do? What do I study? And then you finally hone in on a topic. Tell us the story of how you got to that point.
Well, I got the best advice anyone could give a graduate student, which is, or PhD student, find a topic you're not going to be sick of in 4 years. And sex, hey, there we go. I wasn't sick of it. And the other thing was I started off in the public health arena, and I have 18 graduate hours in health, and then I switched over to sports science. And so I really just wanted to make myself more marketable as a faculty member. And so I figured a dissertation that kind of combined exercise science and public health was perfect. And so originally when I looked at the design, I wanted to have people that were sedentary, you know, examine sexual functioning scores, put them on an exercise plan, and then reassess. And then we all know people trying to get sedentary people to exercise 3 times a week for an extended period of time is just, it's just, you know, a good dissertation is a completed dissertation is another great advice that I got. So I just decided, you know, correlational study. So I just needed everybody to come in once. And fortunately I was recruiting like crazy. I ended up with 133 participants that were able to complete the study. Yeah, down from 148. I had to eliminate people that were on SSRIs because of how it affects sexual functioning.
Right, yeah.
I kept it from 8 people that were ages 18 to 50, same deal because of sexual functioning issues. And people obviously had to complete all the fitness tests.
Right.
So it was really interesting.
What about guys on anabolic steroids? Did you eliminate that?
I didn't ask that question. I didn't have that, but I will say it was interesting, and I didn't study this, but just observing is that I did have more females in the study. So that might have played a role in why certain things were more, I was able to find significance more often in females than males, just because my N number was higher. But females would come in of all body sizes, and they were not paid for this because I was, you know, PhD student. They just wanted to see the research and where they stood.
Okay.
But one of the things that I think was a little bit of a limitation is that most of the men I saw were pretty fit. And I don't know if men didn't want to get their fitness level assessed unless they were already fit, or if me being a female affected that, like they were less likely to be sloppier in front of a female. I don't know. What it was. But I did have a lot more females that just volunteered.
And so it says here, 68.4% of the participants were women, so a lot more women. 31.6% were men. The majority were heterosexual, 87.2%. And then a few were bisexual, 7.5%, and then homosexual, 5.3%. So how would that impact it? You know, heterosexual versus homosexual or bisexual?
Well, the only thing, I used the Daragotti's Inventory of Sexual Functioning survey. And so that was written a while ago and was very heteronormative. And so the only real issue, and it's separate, there's separate surveys for men and women for there. And that survey assessed things like fantasy and cognition for one category, arousal, orgasm, behavior and experience, and sexual drive and desire. But it has different questions for men and women. And so the only real difference was that with men, it said, you know, when you're with a woman versus man, you know, when you're with a whatever. And so I just changed it to partner, but everything else, since the surveys were already separated by sex, really wasn't any major differences there.
So what were the big findings? You looked at sexual cognition and fantasy, you looked at arousal, you looked at behavior and experience, you looked at orgasm, and you looked at total sexual function. You should teach a sex class at Nova.
I know, I would like to. I don't know if we could really add it into sports science, but
No, it would be, well, it would be related to general health.
well, and actually, so that's largely why I started this. I mean, I was interested in the topic, but the reality is this. We all know that exercise is good for you, right? We all know that you need to exercise for your lungs, your heart, your bones, everything. We all know that, but no one does, right? Rates of obesity are inclining at drastic rates. So, but I thought, so men might not exercise to prevent a heart attack. They might exercise to have a better sex life. So I'm hoping that the motivations there would the different motivation would inspire people to exercise. But there were a lot of interesting things that I found. So the Darigotti's Inventory of Sexual Functioning Survey, and it had those 5 components, which were studied separately and then as an aggregate score. And then I also had a self-concept survey. And just to clarify, self-concept is different than self-esteem. Self-concept is how you think about yourself versus self-esteem, how you feel about yourself. So self-concept survey did the same thing, separate components, and then measured as an aggregate score, things like likability, task accomplishment, power, vulnerability, all of those things. And so it was interesting. I actually found that likability in men, so none of the muscular strength criteria were linked to really anything sexual in men, which surprised me. I would have thought the big, jacked, stereotypical man is having more sexual experiences.
I mean, how they perceive themselves or how women perceive them?
Well, and how they perceive themselves. So it was their self-reported sexual behavior, but I also asked them number of partners.
Okay.
And so being more muscular and being more fit. Now body composition for both sexes was inversely linked to sexual experience, which makes sense for a plethora of reasons. But overall, like muscular strength in men was not linked to more partners or to better experience, which surprised me. However, likability, and again, remember, this is self-reported, likability was linked to improved sexual behavior and experience in men. But then you run this chicken and the egg with correlational studies. Are men who are in fact more likable having more sexual experiences and better sexual experiences, or men who are having better and more sexual experiences describing themselves as more likable? Right, you really don't know for that one, but I was surprised to see there. The other one that really surprised me was that arousal was linked to cardiovascular endurance in women, but not men. And that one really threw me, because I mean, arousal, like that one I was just really surprised at, which says, I mean, maybe we're really neglecting women. There were a couple funny ones like task accomplishment.
Wait, so what you're saying is guys don't need to be in shape? Is that what you're saying?
No, maybe I just have too few men. Maybe I just need more men.
Okay.
But I was just surprised that it was linked with women. Task accomplishment, and again, this is self-reported, so how much I think I'm accomplishing tasks, was inversely related to sexual experience in men, which cracks me up.
But no, this is interesting. Say that in layman's language.
Okay. How much men think they accomplish is less likely to occur when they're pursuing women.
So basically, if they pursue women, they get nothing done.
Yeah, basically. And that's according to them. That is according to what they said.
I concur with that wholeheartedly. If I wasn't incessantly thinking about women, I probably would have achieved a lot more in my life.
Well, so wait, here's what's interesting though. So that would make sense, but I think it's more on the pursuit, because with women, what hurt the task accomplishment for women was actually arousal. So if a female's being aroused more often, you're less likely to accomplish tasks, versus a man, it's the experience that makes them less likely to accomplish tasks.
Okay.
Well, that makes evolutionary sense when you think about it. Men as pursuers typically, and women are the ones who make all the decisions. It's not men. So, but it is kind of funny that it works out that way. Well, that would explain why men do really poorly in college.
They're chasing women the whole time.
Yeah,
even if it's not to chase, it's not volitional. It just never leaves your brain. Like it's constant at that age. It's constantly in there. For some of us, what I'm trying to say is, there's females, and then, oh yeah, I better do something else. Like, so for some of us, I'm not talking about now, I'm just talking about that actually happens. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but the experience, there's an incessant, and again, it's not always volitional. The topic, the subject matter of sex itself, at a certain age, I know for me, it never left. I had to get out of that to actually go even think about anything else.
I mean, I think it's true. If you were to ask a woman, like, let's say you're out, right? And you could have this crazy, amazing night with this beautiful man, or study for your midterm. Or and you ask a man, you could have this crazy, amazing night with this really hot woman, or go home and study. You know, I think the woman might be more likely to say no and start studying.
I think so. That's my guess. You'd know
And
better.
the guy will happily take a C or D in the exam.
Absolutely.
Talk about the night for the rest, you know? But it's interesting that arousal was opposite. I mean, maybe meaning a guy just merely being aroused can take care of himself and then go study, whereas the woman was getting more frustrated by being consistently aroused.
So was there, in terms of being in shape in general, was being in shape a predictor of anything in any strong sense?
The most fascinating part of the study, which I was really surprised with. Now, the first part makes sense. Women that described themselves as powerful, was directly related to people that had stronger hand grip scores. You're stronger, you lift more, you describe yourself as powerful. Not shocking. But both of those were related to the amount of sexual partners that the female had. Meaning the stronger, tougher, more powerful woman had a significantly higher amount of male sexual partners.
Interesting. Do you think the way men perceive women, that body count matters?
Oh, unfortunately, I do think that men think that. I mean, I think honestly, like, my take is that it's insecurity. Like, oh,
What about the other way? Do women care?
I think some women do. I mean, I don't think anyone should care. Like, as long as everyone came out of it disease-free, I mean, I'm obviously just a little more open-minded about it, but like, I would rather have somebody that, aside from the fun and the experience, I'd rather have somebody that's kind of experienced what he's wanted and then not curious later. Because I have seen instances
That's a good point. Yep.
you know, people get with somebody right away and then curiosity gets to them. And then they start to be more curious. So
Especially at very young ages too. Yeah, I think that
yeah,
there's a sense of being deprived or missing out. And when you are older, if couple, you've seen a lot, you've done a lot, and you do know what you're not missing, if that makes sense. Yeah.
absolutely. And I think the point about worrying about body count is actually maybe why women that perceive themselves as strong and who lifted more didn't care. So like, maybe as a female, if I care about what society just says I need to do to be feminine, right? That means low body count. I'm going to do cardio. I'm going to sit in my little aerobics class and I'm not going to lift weights. Then I might have less sexual partners. Versus maybe a female who is less constrained by gender norms is going to say, I don't care. I'm going to lift. I'm strong. I'm going to go up to that guy and, you know, hit on him and do all of these things that are not stereotypically female. Like,
Right.
no, and again, it's a correlational study. So that could be the start of the cycle, is saying, screw what men think about body count and what society says. Or maybe just, you know, women who have more testosterone through lifting feel stronger and they approach men, or maybe just the testosterone made them hornier and then they
right. It might have driven them to lift. That's a chicken or the egg, right? It drives them to be more athletic and maybe lift, and it impacts their drive.
Yeah, like maybe a little more sexually aggressive. Maybe they just feel tougher and stronger as a result of lifting, and testosterone in of itself had nothing to do with it. Right. You know, we really don't know. I mean, it was such a surprising study, and I really didn't expect to see that. But it's funny, I've spoken to men after it, and they said, "Oh, that makes sense." Like, apparently, I don't know, but apparently I've heard guys say like, "Oh yeah, those girls that drive like the big pickup trucks, always the freaks, always the one that hit on me." And so the stereotypically tough, strong girl, and I've heard that more than once. So I don't know.
Interesting. I do have a question. You the age range was 18 to 50. And I don't know if you had enough, if the sample size was big enough, if there was a age difference, like 40 to 50 versus under 40, because I would imagine the attitudes are going to change quite a bit.
I had very few people. I was not able to disaggregate based on age. I mean, I think the average age was like 24,
Okay.
and it was predominantly students. And you know, how does faculty staff are nervous when it comes to sexual functioning. So I did not have a lot of people that were faculty staff. It was primarily students and that worked out at the gym that volunteered.
If you could do a follow-up study to this, what would be the kinds of questions you would ask?
Well, what I would actually like to look at is blood samples more than anything. So I would like to look at the role of testosterone as a result of lifting. That would be one. I would also want to see, do you describe yourself in terms of questions? Do you describe yourself as more feminine or masculine, or are you more of a pursuer? And has this changed since you've lifted weights? Things of that nature, I think would be really, really interesting for females.
Actually, you could measure. You don't even need blood. You could just do salivary testosterone. Yeah,
Very
so,
well.
so that's a possibility. But no, this is interesting. I do want to
Really
move
cool.
to a new subject, the fingers. We were talking about the relationship in size between the index and the ring finger. Tell us, and Tony and I, we're good. So explain it.
It was really interesting and surprising. So everybody always asks, like, so I've got a history of dating very tall men. So people would always ask, like, oh, is height related to penis size? And it's something that was asked of me all the time.
Is it?
Well, I mean, I'm going to say this. Anecdotally, I'm not going to have a high enough N number to plot it. All right. I'm going to go back.
So it's not really a scatter plot. It's more like,
Well, yeah, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So anyways, no, there was a study of Italian men, and it was 3,300 men, and they did find a correlation between height and penis size, but that was the only study that I found of that nature. So, and it was I believe it was a moderate correlation at that. The only things that I saw that might be a greater predictor, so, you know, all the things like hand size, there isn't any link there. However, the ratio of your index finger to ring finger, so index to ring, is directly related to how much testosterone in utero you have. And so obviously testosterone in utero could be related to penile length. And so the shorter the index finger is in relation to the ring finger, the more testosterone you would have. And
Wow, I'm really good. Look.
you're gonna be punching walls anytime, right? So yeah, so it was just a very surprising thing that I wouldn't have thought of. I mean, and I don't know how it affects females. Like mine are the same size. I'm female. Like you know, it wasn't.
does it predict testosterone or free testosterone levels as an adult? Meaning,
I don't know. I don't know. And so, I mean, that would be really interesting to look at. I mean, yeah, there's really no way to look at that. The study did not. They only talked about testosterone in utero, and they even said at a specific time in utero. And so I don't know that type of like embryonic development. I don't, that's not my area, but so I don't even know what time testosterone surges are more important in utero.
so if it ends up being the same length, that means what?
You've got less testosterone. So you want your index finger to be shorter than your ring finger.
Right. Okay. Well, Tony and I have midget index fingers, apparently.
Tiny.
There you go.
My ring finger is like Shaq, and my index finger is Danny DeVito. So I'm really good, right?
It's perfect. It's perfect. No, it's funny. I did the same thing to my husband. So, and you know, he's 6'6" and jacked and like your stereotypical like testosterone guy. And he has the same thing, a really, really, really short index finger. And I was like, oh, this is so weird. Like, it's just all of these things that affect our bodies you just wouldn't ever think of, like testosterone finger length. It's just bizarre.
That is strange. Hey, tell us a little bit about, I'm sure you get this question a lot, and I want you to explain your sex show, but foods that help sex drive or help sexual function, are there any that you're aware of?
No. So, well, here's the part of this. There's so many myths out there, and I swear if you Google it, like there's tons of food out here, like strawberries from like some Greek god or something. And there's no science behind it whatsoever.
What about chocolate?
Yeah, chocolate, dopamine. Okay, everything gives you dopamine. Like you can go like smoke crack and get some dopamine. Come on. So, I mean, it's just, the science is just simply not there. The biggest one people go crazy about is oysters.
Yeah.
I think the sexual nature of an oyster might turn somebody on. But I mean, oysters do have zinc, and zinc is great. And if you're zinc deficient, that can affect testosterone levels and can affect sperm and all of those things. If you are zinc deficient, then eating an oyster may help, but so can taking a zinc tab.
Right.
So it's really, there's nothing about the oyster. And even more so, there has never even been a peer review, to my knowledge, there has not been any peer reviewed research examining food and sexual function. I mean, there's been a lot on like various vitamins, like vitamin D can help. But again, if you are vitamin D deficient, you know, then you're going to have a whole slew of issues,
Right.
one of which being sexual function. So if you have any deficiencies, definitely eat the foods, take the vitamins, do everything, but there's no special food that's going to get you going.
Yeah, I remember in terms of zinc, yeah, deficiencies, if you're deficient, then, you know, it'll help bring you back to normal. That and I know you don't eat meat, but I remembered red meat. When if you eat red meat, remember the acronym ZIP, you get zinc, iron, and protein. And so I always thought, oh, red meat, you get zinc. And obviously if you don't eat red meat, you got to take a zinc tab or capsule. But and oysters is probably the one that I hear of more than anything. And to me, it's like eating, you know, boogers. It looks like snot. I don't do snot.
I eat anything out of the ocean but oysters. So I'm with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I grew up a commercial fisherman, but the oyster is out. So I'm with you on that. Jeff.
Now, why do you not eat oysters? I mean, to me, the mouthfeel is just
The texture is obnoxious. And I like kind of soft stuff, but not soft stuff that can't be broken up. Okay. I mean, essentially, not soft stuff that kind of stays as is in your mouth. And it would stay that way for a sustained period of time if you just didn't swallow it. So,
Well, and let me tell you, so I'm a vegan, and my vegan self pre-PhD had to work in a restaurant shucking oysters.
Oh,
yeah.
Eating oysters is disgusting. When you have to like stick it in and separate, like it is.
Yeah, I opened clams for a long time, so I know what it's like. But the oyster is more challenging than like a little neck or a cherry clam. Yeah,
It was not fun, not good times.
well, there's really no reason to eat them. They ain't doing anything for sex drive, right? So yeah.
Lia, tell us a little bit about your show, because I know that's something you've been doing for a while, and I don't know if the audience is even familiar with it, where they can find it. Are videos posted on YouTube?
Yeah,
or
they are. They
Yeah.
are. If you Google Sex Talk with Dr. Lia, LIA, you'll see it there. So we are on TV, so it's through PBS and through the Health Channel. So I'm on 5 times a week, I believe, through those 2 avenues. I'm actually going into my 4th season, which is fun.
Okay.
The first season was a little dry and lectury, which I didn't love. But then on season 2, I got a co-host who's really funny, and he doesn't come from the same science background. And so it's a little more jovial, and he gives a little bit more background info. And there's a lot of clips. There's a lot of information. I'll answer 8 questions per 30-minute segment, but then there's a lot of additional info that's also in the show. And we recently added a Take It to the Street segment, which has been really funny. I'll interview people on Las Olas as they're coming out of the bars, asking them fun little questions. It's only a couple-minute clip. And again, it's PBS, so I get edited quite a bit. Oh, yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah, there, just so everyone knows, there we go, right on, you can't see it there, YouTube.
Yeah,
there's
there
Dr.
you
Lia
go.
right there.
There you go. Yep. Sex Talk
So,
with Dr.
Do
Lia.
you
And there's
remember
also-
any like the funny questions or answers that you've gotten? Because
There's
there's
a-
got to be some funny shit going on.
There's a lot of them. I mean, there's the common ones like, what types of lube should I use? I mean, we get all of those. There's some better, broken penis ones, like how you
Ooh.
break penis.
I've always had a fear of that.
And it's not, I mean, obviously we know the penis isn't actually a bone, but you can break it.
Yeah.
I've actually heard this elsewhere, not on the show, but one of the craziest ways is a guy, I swear, tried this to leap and jump and land inside of his partner, missed, hit the pubic bone, and ended up in the ER. And like, if it doesn't correct itself well, you could have like a bend and permanent curvature of the penis. And so you have to like get surgery. So it's great to be creative, but don't be stupid, you know?
Yeah.
So those are some interesting ones, but
I should have started with brain surgery before.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a whole slew of interesting like sex devices that are out there. So, how to keep a long distance relationship steamy. They have devices that you can sync up long distance, that you can engage in a sexual act.
Look at Joey's face.
Yeah, with each other.
But you're still alone.
Yeah, we're so long, but at least you get like the feeling of the other person there.
Oh, that's
No,
great.
you know, they're on a camera and you're like doing shit to yourself. I'm like,
But they're timed. I don't know. I mean, I haven't used one, I don't know, but they're timed to be syncing up. You know, hey,
That's amazing. I didn't even know anything like that existed. So.
Dr. Lia, could you be more specific?
Yeah, no. I know that some of the students watch this, so we're gonna leave that there.
How about this? Is there a relationship between overall health and sexual health?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, in just every way. I mean, think about it this way. Is there one thing that obesity doesn't ruin? You know, there is.
It's harder to
No,
be
there isn't
kidnapped.
actually. You're absolutely right. Type 2 and obesity destroy, they're human rusting. They eventually just break down every part of the human body. So you're right.
Yeah, and it is absolutely linked to sexual dysfunction, and even more so in men. With women, it's often tied to body image issues.
Okay.
And obviously we know excess fat and excess estrogen, all of those things can cause a problem. But with men, it is directly linked to erectile dysfunction. And if when you think about how your arteries are, when those arteries are clogging, they're clogging.
Yeah.
Do you think, I mean, this is speculative, but the body positivity movement it's almost focused entirely on women. You know, if you're severely obese, you're still beautiful. I have not met a single man that ever thought being obese is beautiful, like for men, but it's only women. So is it maybe tied to that?
There's a couple things with that. I think that there might be a larger continuum of which some men find attractive, right? So if a woman is over fat, it could be really big boobs or a really big butt. When a man's over fat, it's usually a gut. Like, so it's not going to be. So I think
Great point.
there's some element there. I think some of it is that, you know, I really don't like the fact, you'll see this even in television shows, like the man's always right. I mean, the man's always wrong and the woman is always right. And it's just, you don't need the guy to be a bumbling idiot. And so you just don't need to patronize women that way. So I don't see anything wrong. Women struggle with eating disorders for a long time. I think any woman you can sympathize with that. And so you don't need to have a six-pack to be beautiful. At the same point, you know, so if Lizzo is comfortable in her own skin, what do I care? Good for her.
Sure.
But at the same point, don't advocate that it's healthy. That's
all right. Yeah.
You know, but I don't think it's just in that direction, because think about it this way. There is that dad bod, right? Where the men are a little bit softer, and it's not unhealthy, but it is accepted for women. When you think about it, women are the one actually having the kid. Like, if anyone should get a grace period, it should be the mom bod, right? But again, I don't think women actually want that. I think that all stems from their own insecurities. I think an in-shape woman doesn't really want a dad bod. I think an in-shape woman wants a jacket.
Yeah, and I think the guys with the dad bod are just the guys who are out of shape. They will admit they're out of shape. They won't say, you know, I'm beautiful the way I am. It's like, no, you're a fat ass the way you are, buddy. So, and guys talk to each other that way, and we don't even think about it. It's just, I guess there's a sex or gender difference in terms of how men talk to men and women talk to women. I think men are they seem to be more honest in terms of what they tell their friends. And when women talk to each other, everyone's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess that could be true, because maybe it's just, I don't know if it's honest or maybe just a sensitivity and not hurting someone's feelings. Like, I can't ever imagine being like, yo, my girl got fat. Like, I just wouldn't say that. So I guess you're right. But I mean, a friend of mine's going through fertility issues and she's gained weight. And again, obesity causes a problem again. So I have said some things like, hey, here's an easy solution that might give you an advantage. So, I mean, I think that women still say it, but again, I have no problem with the body acceptance movement. I mean, at the end of the day, be as fat as you want. What do I care? But just don't advocate that this is a form of health. Don't give the information out that this is a form of health. Although I will say I do have one problem with the body movement. I recently saw a story where I think it was a male or female, I can't remember, was morbidly obese, so much so they could not wash themselves. And so this
Oh.
person, you should just go to 24-hour fitness and go in the spa once a week.
Oh, no. I think I remember that. They would sit in the hot tub or pool, and that's how they
Yes.
would bathe.
Yes,
Yes.
I am horrified. So think about fecal matter and how much bacteria after 7 days
Yes.
living in an enclosed environment. And then like, imagine if you have a paper cut,
Mm.
like
Action.
that just, I have not been in a jacuzzi since. That was pretty horrifying.
I
So I
can
do
see
have a
why,
problem
yeah.
with morbid obesity then. Like,
How
Well,
do
I
they
mean-
get in and out then?
yeah. So
That's not easy to do if one's carrying a lot of extra weight, actually in and out of even a hot tub. Yeah. Ooh,
I
well,
mean,
but I mean, I guess they can't get in and out of a shower or
right.
I don't know. But that's still
Well,
pretty-
thanks, because I've never used them often. I'm definitely not going back in now.
Exactly.
I don't even like going into a public pool unless I'm the only one in it.
Oh,
yeah.
See, I'm bad. Where I mean, we'll go to like Volcano Bay. I'm in public pools all the time, but after I saw that, I'm a little bit horrified. You know.
Yeah. I'd much rather jump in the ocean knowing that there's fish than jump in a pool knowing that there's people.
Yeah.
One final thought. So, talking about body positivity and whatnot. So the rates of obesity in Japan are about 4%. Rates of obesity in the United States going back to, I think the 1970s was about 10%, I think, roughly.
Yeah. 70s was about just 8 to 9. I have all that. Yeah. I mean, we didn't aggregate it like we do now, but it was about
Right.
8 to 9. Yeah.
But now the rates of overweight and obesity, I think Tony, is it 3 out of every 4 adults now?
Yeah. I'll just tell you quickly because I show my students all the time. We have 23 states at greater than 35%
This is
obesity,
obesity.
not overweight, obesity in the 40, and about 12 states over 30%. So 33 to 34 states of the 50 are greater than 30% obesity. That's the minimum threshold to meet that.
Wow.
Well, I could just on that one, I could say, and I have used this test question since I got here not that long ago, I want to say I got here in 2017. I want to say I started the question about 2018. So when you think about changing a population the size of America in 5 years, that's hard, right?
Yep.
I had a question, what is the percentage of the population that is both overweight and obese? And it was, 1/2, 2/3, 3/4, whatever, were the options. And at the time it was 66 something. So the answer was obviously 2/3. Last year, the year before, I didn't key it differently. And the student's like, well, wait a minute, we're at 74%. We're at 3/4.
We are now, yes.
And they were right, but it was just really shocking to me that we moved from 66 to 74.1% in just the short time I've been here. And to move whatever we have, 330 million people, that's astounding statistically. And I
Mhm.
believe
The 2022 came out in June, CDC, and it is at about 74% above optimal weight, and overweight and obese in total now. That's exactly the number. Yeah. Sharp student, by the way, because I've been watching the CDC map every year and I show it to my students and it just constantly gets redder and dark red and bright red. And we're running out of red because every state now, there are no states left in under 20% obesity anymore.
It makes you wonder, like, when does it end? When does a trend line plateau? It's like, okay, three out of every 4. Is it going to be what now? 4 out of every 5? I mean,
I think drugs are going to stop it.
You think so?
I like Ozempic and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the current drugs are the ones that may, like, and you've seen Peter's work, Dr. Attia, on this. I mean, the Ozempic is ripping off lean tissue at amounts we've never seen before, right? So if somebody's losing 35 pounds and they've done that through 4 or 5 months of caloric restriction, a little bit of physical activity, you're getting 22 pounds, 25 pounds of fat loss. If you got to do this really right, 5-6 pounds of muscle tissue and 4 pounds on the 35 of water. This is 20 muscle, if not more, 22 of lean tissue and about 10 pounds of fat. Really bizarre in how the lean tissue is being impacted and stripped off of the body by the GLPs. And just quickly, I don't want to overdo this, but that means having to sustain the drug for life, because the metabolic adaptation and the rebound will be worse than the rebounds we've probably seen previously, because the lean tissue, the percentage of lean tissue is significantly higher than even crash diets were.
Wow.
Anyway, just some
No,
thought
I mean,
on that.
that is what interesting. I haven't really looked much into Ozempic at all. I do know one person that, you know, their child did it and was really, really happy, but
Yeah.
you know, I was not aware of that. That's crazy. And muscle.
Yeah,
system
I think
build.
it could be, you know, again, I don't know. Maybe it's 10, 15 years away, but I think the obesity crisis will be completely remedied by pharmaceuticals.
Well, I guess we'll find out. I
Yeah,
mean,
I could be dead wrong. To be honest.
yeah. It's,
Or the reality is, I mean, I've seen other studies, and again, this is mixed, so I'm not claiming that this is the one and all way to be, but I have seen some studies indicating that the generation, I'm a what they call geriatric millennial.
What?
Never heard of that.
Millennials, that there was theorized that we would actually live the longest, and typically every generation outlives their successor, but or outlives the prior generation, but because of obesity related diseases, the generation after us
Yep.
wouldn't live. So who really knows? I mean, I've seen other studies to contradict that, but it is interesting to think about.
well, all I know is between the three of us and all of the faculty in our department that we know that the single best behavior you can engage in is exercise. If you exercise, even if you're overweight, if you exercise, it has a lot of benefits metabolically that, you know, a lot of people will view it as a mode. It's not really effective for losing weight, but you're going to get healthier anyways. And
Yep.
but unfortunately, most people just don't move their bodies. It's kind of sad, actually.
And get happier. I will say one quick thing that someone told me, as a licensed psychologist, said, if I told people that if they'd have to walk 5 minutes to take a pill and they'd be happier and then come back, walk 5 minutes back, they would do it in a heartbeat. But if I tell people to walk 10 minutes a day to be happy, they won't do it.
There you go. Great. Yeah.
That's crazy. Hey, Leah, we're out of time, but I want you to tell the audience what projects do you have going on this semester, and then also what's the easiest way for people to find you?
Well, the easiest way for people to find me is just simply Google LIANSU. I'm the only
There you
one.
go.
Thanks my parents for interesting spelling of the name. That's gonna be the easiest one. Also, the show is available on the All Health Go app and PBS and the Health Channel. Also, just Googling Sex Talk with Dr. Leah. And upcoming projects that I have going on, we're examining alpha brain, so that should be exciting. We're also looking at amino acids, and I don't think it's going to have much of an effect on metabolic rate, but it should be interesting, since there is always a debate as to whether or not you should have amino acids during fasting. Not that I support fasting, but just since so many people ask the question, so I'm looking at both of those, and of course wrapping up my caffeine and sexual function.
Awesome.